Neanderthals' surprising diet, maggots and more. Neanderthals, not just meat eaters, but maggot enthusiasts. Recent research has revealed a surprising twist in our understanding of Neanderthal diets. Contrary to the long-held belief that these ancient humans were strict hyper-carnivores, predators at the pinnacle of the food chain, feasting primarily on large mammals like mammoths and cave lions, new evidence suggests that they also indulged in a rather unexpected delicacy: maggots. For Neanderthals, the menu was far more diverse than just wild game, roasted birds, seafood, and plant matter. Chemical analyses of ancient bones indicate that they likely consumed significant amounts of fresh maggots, which were a nutritious and readily available food source. This revelation challenges the traditional view of Neanderthals as relentless meat hunters, suggesting instead that their diet was more varied and opportunistic. But here's where it gets controversial. The research conducted by a team of scientists in the United States posits that Neanderthals did not simply gorge on massive quantities of meat. Instead, they likely stored their kills for extended periods, favoring the fatty parts of the carcasses while also harvesting the maggots that thrived in the decaying flesh. John Speth, a professor emeritus of anthropology at the University of Michigan, stated, "Neanderthals were not hypercarnivores. Their diet was different. It's likely maggots were a major food source for them." Historically, Neanderthals were believed to be at the top of the food chain due to the elevated levels of heavy nitrogen found in their bones. This nitrogen accumulates in organisms as they metabolize protein, with heavier nitrogen isotopes becoming more concentrated at each level of the food chain, from plants to herbivores and then to carnivores. However, the researchers argue that the amount of meat required to achieve such high nitrogen levels would have been physiologically unmanageable for Neanderthals. Speth elaborated, "Humans can only tolerate about 4 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, while animals like lions can safely consume 2 to 4 times that amount." This raises intriguing questions about the dietary habits of our ancient relatives. Interestingly, many indigenous cultures around the globe still consume maggots found in decomposing meat, prompting researchers to investigate the potential role of these larvae in Neanderthal diets. The experiments conducted were not for the faint-hearted. Dr. Melanie Beasley, a member of the research team from Purdue University, previously worked at the Forensic Anthropology Center, commonly known as the Body Farm, at the University of Tennessee. This facility studies human corpses left to decompose, aiding forensic scientists in refining their techniques, such as determining the time of death. In her research, Beasley measured the levels of heavy nitrogen in both decaying muscle tissue and the maggots that infested the corpses. She found that while heavy nitrogen levels increased slightly in the muscle as it decomposed, they were significantly higher in the maggots. This same process would have occurred in the carcasses that Neanderthals store in, according to Beasley. The findings, published in Science Advances, suggest that rather than being voracious meat consumers like lions, Neanderthals may have achieved their high nitrogen levels by consuming maggots, which themselves were rich in heavy nitrogen. And this is the part most people miss. Karen Hardy, a professor of prehistoric archaeology at the University of Glasgow, remarked, "The only reason this is surprising is that it contradicts what we Westerners think of as food. In many parts of the world, a wide variety of items are consumed, and maggots are an excellent source of protein, fat, and essential amino acids." She further noted, "For Neanderthals, it was a no-brainer. Just leave some meat out for a few days and then return to harvest the maggots. It's an easy way to obtain nutritious food." This new perspective on Neanderthal diets prompts us to reconsider our assumptions. Hardy concluded, "The idea of Neanderthals as top carnivores is nonsense. It was physiologically impossible." This research not only makes sense, but also clarifies the high nitrogen signals in a way that has not been done so clearly before. What do you think? Does this change your perception of Neanderthals? Could it be that our ancestors were more resourceful and adaptable than we ever imagined? Share your thoughts in the comments. Neanderthals, the surprising truth about their diet. Neanderthals likely enjoyed a unique and somewhat revolting delicacy in their diet: fermented meat topped with a side of maggots. Contrary to the long-held belief that Neanderthals were purely meat eaters, similar to apex predators, recent research suggests they had a more varied omnivorous diet. incorporating plenty of plant foods as well. While humans can survive on a diet high in animal protein, they cannot tolerate the levels consumed by predators without risking protein poisoning, a condition that can be fatal. This raises the question of how Neanderthals maintained their health on what appeared to be a diet rich in meat. As an anthropologist specializing in ancient diets, I and my colleagues have explored a fascinating possibility: the inclusion of maggots in the Neanderthal diet. By analyzing the stable nitrogen isotope ratios in bones, scientists can infer what an animal ate. Higher ratios of nitrogen-15 are found in organisms higher up the food chain, but the unusually high ratios in Neanderthal bones suggested something more. Our research pointed to maggots as a potential source of the elevated nitrogen-15 levels. Maggots, which are abundant after the death of an animal, are not only easy to collect, but also rich in fat and nutrients. We discovered that the nitrogen-15 levels in maggots feeding on decomposing meat can be significantly higher than those in the original meat. This finding aligns with cultural practices observed in some indigenous Arctic communities, where decomposing maggot-infested meat is considered a delicacy. Neanderthals may have employed similar practices, allowing animal carcasses to ferment and consume the resulting maggots, along with the fermented meat. The high nitrogen-15 levels in Neanderthal bones could, therefore, be attributed to the consumption of these nutrient-dense fermented foods, including the maggots. This dietary strategy would have allowed Neanderthals to incorporate a variety of nutrients while still enjoying the benefits of meat. However, many questions remain about the specifics of this ancient diet. Further research is needed to understand the exact impact of maggot consumption on nitrogen-15 levels and the overall nutritional benefits of this dietary practice. In conclusion, the inclusion of maggots in the Neanderthal diet offers a compelling explanation for the puzzling nitrogen-15 levels in their bones. This discovery not only sheds light on the dietary habits of our ancient relatives, but also highlights the diverse and sometimes surprising strategies humans have used to obtain nutrition throughout history. Neanderthals, the surprising truth about their diet. Imagine a world where our understanding of Neanderthals is turned upside down. Contrary to the long-held belief that these ancient humans were relentless meat eaters, recent research suggests they might have had a taste here, including a surprising delicacy: maggots. This revelation challenges the narrative that Neanderthals were solely hypercarnivorous, as indicated by the nitrogen isotope ratios found in their bones. While these ratios have traditionally been interpreted as evidence of a meat-heavy diet, they could also point to a more balanced, omnivorous lifestyle that incorporated not just meat, but also nutrient-rich maggots and plant-based foods. Melanie Beasley, a researcher at Purdue University in Indiana, highlights the nutritional value of maggots, describing them as easily scoopable, collectible, nutrient-rich resources. Historically, many cultures have consumed maggots, and even today, some reindeer hunters consider certain types of maggots a delicacy, actively cultivating them. Additionally, in Sardinia, a cheese known as casumarzu, which contains live maggots, is celebrated as a gourmet treat. To understand the dietary habits of Neanderthals, we need to delve into the science of nitrogen isotopes. Nitrogen exists in two stable forms, nitrogen-14 and nitrogen-15. The lighter nitrogen-14 isotope tends to be lost more easily from living organisms than its heavier counterpart, nitrogen-15. As one moves up the food chain, the ratio of nitrogen-15 to nitrogen-14 increases. By analyzing the collagen in fossilized bones, researchers can glean insights into the diets of ancient animals, with carnivores typically exhibiting higher nitrogen-15 ratios than herbivores. However, when scientists examined the bones of Neanderthals, they discovered unexpectedly high nitrogen-15 ratios, even surpassing those found in lions and hyenas. This led to the prevailing belief that Neanderthals were hypercarnivores focused on hunting large game. Yet many experts are skeptical of this interpretation. For instance, the bones of early Homo sapiens show similar nitrogen isotope ratios, suggesting that these humans could not have thrived solely on lean meat. Beasley points out, it's actually physically not possible. You'll die of what early explorers called rabbit starvation. This phenomenon occurs when a diet is excessively high in protein, overwhelming the body's ability to process toxic byproducts like ammonia. Moreover, there is substantial evidence indicating that Neanderthals consumed plant matter as well. Studies of their dental calculus reveal traces of various plants, further complicating the narrative of a strictly meat-based diet. So, what accounts for the high nitrogen-15 ratios observed in Neanderthals? In 2017, John Speff from the University of Michigan proposed a fascinating theory. Neanderthals might have stored meat and consumed it after it had begun to rot. As meat decomposes, it releases gases such as ammonia, which could lead to an increase in nitrogen-15 levels. Beasley, who was conducting research at the University of Tennessee's Body Farm, a facility dedicated to studying human decomposition, saw an opportunity to test Speth's hypothesis. Alongside her colleagues, she discovered that while nitrogen isotope ratios do rise as muscle tissue decays, the increase is modest compared to the significant spikes observed in maggots feeding on decomposing bodies. These preliminary findings could suggest that a diet rich in meat is not the sole explanation for the nitrogen isotope ratios found in Neanderthals and ancient Homo sapiens. Beasley proposes that these ratios likely result from a combination of factors, including the storage, processing, and cooking of meat, as well as the consumption of maggots. Herman Ponser from Duke University finds this research compelling, stating, "I find the evidence here pretty convincing that consumption of maggots and similar larvae explains the hypercarnivore signal we've been seeing in previous fossil isotope work." This study not only sheds light on the dietary habits of Neanderthals, but also suggests that a true paleo diet might include fermented meat and maggots. Beasley encourages those interested in authentic paleo practices to consider incorporating these elements into their diets. As we explore the lives of Neanderthals and their dietary choices, it raises intriguing questions about our own eating habits and the foods we often overlook. What do you think about the idea of including maggots in our diets? Could this shift our understanding of what it means to eat like our ancestors? Share your thoughts in the comments.